From Rule 62 Studios in Bossier City, Louisiana, this is The Grouch and the Brainstorm. Hey, good morning, and welcome back.
Well, good morning.
I got Jill here.
Hey, guys.
I got Matt.
Hello.
And I got Craig.
Hello.
And guys, Craig has actually been on the show before. He done an episode, and he did not have time to tell his story. We love to have people tell their story, and he is going to do that in just a second. Our last episode, which actually aired today, hopefully by the time this episode airs, we will be able to say we have a website, an active website, and on said website, we will have some announcements. But I'm also going to have where we can, you can go straight to the episodes or straight to the people telling their stories. And they're not all mixed up like they are on the podcast pages. And that way, and you can also going to be able to communicate with us through that. So I forgot to leave a plug, and I meant to do that last time. But we did talk about, and I don't like to talk about, but we did talk about my recovery birthday, my sobriety birthday, which was June 21st of this year.
Happy birthday.
A couple Fridays ago. Thank you, Craig. Craig wished me a happy birthday on my birthday. But Judy and Larry, a couple of, loyal listeners, sent me, first off, they sent me a shirt that has Rule 62 written on the front of it, which I thought was pretty cool.
Super cool.
And then in that same order, they sent me some chips that have Rule 62 written on the front, and on the back it says, "Don't take yourself too damn serious." And I think these chips are pretty cool.
That is awesome.
I want to give these chips to anyone who comes on and tells their story. I want to give them a Rule 62 chip.
I like it.
Until we run out of those, and then we'll...
Judy and Larry are awesome, man.
They are.
This is so cool. I'm holding one of them, looking at it now. Mike just showed us, and that is so awesome.
And there's a story. Judy says she went to get one chip, and apparently they sent me a whole bag. And I know a lot of people...
That's when you're living the dream.
Living
right
the
there.
dream. Some people want one potato chip. They end up getting a whole bag. Some people want one pill. They get a whole bag. I got a whole bag of Rule 62 chips here.
That's what I'm talking about.
We're going to share. But Craig is going to tell his story to us today. And I know Craig. I've known Craig for a while. Craig is kind of like Lisa, our last guest that was on here. He had some recovery. Things went different. And he came back. And he came back with a vengeance because, I was lucky enough to see him come back. So, but we'll let him tell that. So, Craig, why don't you go ahead, and if we see the need to interrupt you, we just will.
Okay, that sounds good, I guess. My name's Craig Swinas, and I guess I'll just start at the beginning. I was born in 1968, Homestead Air Force Base, Miami, Florida, and my dad was a captain in the Air Force, taught ROTC at the University of Miami. My sister was born 3 years later. Shortly after that, my parents got divorced. And so it was just my mom, my sister, and I for, I guess, about 3 years. And my mother figured it worked so well with a Air Force officer. She met a fighter pilot about 3 years later and married him. And once they were married, we were off to the races. We moved all over the country. Went to Iceland for a year. Had a little brother. He was my half brother, and my stepfather and I never really got along. He very regimented, a lot of rules. I think my people pleasing kind of started with him. I always felt like no matter what I did, it wasn't good enough for him. I can remember forever being in trouble. I was in trouble all the time. I was always grounded. I was always on restriction. I learned my sneaking abilities back then. The rules were set, but I didn't want to abide by them, and I was always going behind his back and doing something that I shouldn't be doing. Anyway, we after moving around a bit, we settled in southern New Jersey on the beach. A little town called Ocean City, New Jersey. Beach, boardwalk. It was a tourist town. In the wintertime, there was about 30,000 people. In the summertime, there was probably 150,000 people. So
Wow.
Yeah.
It's near Atlantic City, I guess.
just
Not far.
about one island south,
Okay.
about 10, 15 miles from. So usually I tell people that I'm from Atlantic City because no one's ever heard of Ocean City.
Part of Ocean Grove.
I've heard of Ocean City in books. I've read it in books.
Well, there is an Ocean City, Maryland, too.
Okay.
Which is a lot different than.
That's the one I read about.
Yeah, probably. So that's a big party town. My town was actually dry. As soon as you cross the bridges, though, to the mainland, there were liquor stores galore. And my grandmother, she would always have beer delivered to her house on the island, and I didn't know how that was legal because it's a dry town. But it didn't stop her. Anyway, we grew up normal, maybe middle class, upper middle class, and I first discovered alcohol. I was 13 years old, and it was Veterans Day, and kids used to have off that day back when I was growing up. And a buddy of mine stole a bottle of Old Granddad whiskey from his parents, and there were 12 of us out in the woods sipping on this. And out of the 12 of us, I was the only one that managed to drink enough to pass out, and I was gone. And they tried to wake me up, and there was no bringing me back, and they covered me with leaves, made
Shallow grave.
to keep me warm.
Oh, that's what they said.
Made
don't
sure
know.
I was
The
face.
lie was so that you didn't smell anything else.
Made sure I was face down so I wouldn't choke on my own puke.
What a bunch of man! That's a really good friend.
Safety first.
And I spent the whole afternoon that way. Finally, around 4 or 5 o'clock, when it was time to go home for dinner, I did manage to come to, and I was like, my first thought was, man, I want to do that shit again, And I got the opportunity to.
Only an alcoholic thought right there. Hey, I was buried face down in the woods today. I'm going to do that again immediately.
Well, I have to admit,
Woke up covered in leaves.
we need to check and see if Craig's in the missing persons database.
But that Christmas Eve at my house was a kind of a big party fest, and I was allowed to drink with the adults that same year. I don't know, it was 81 or 82. So Veterans Day's in November, obviously.
Yep.
Christmas comes along same time every year. So again, I managed to drink enough to pass out. And so my first 2 times really drinking, I had gone to the extreme. And you thought that might have been a wake-up call that, at 13, maybe I had a problem. But those thoughts never entered my mind. I managed to, make my way through school. I was on a football team. I played a lot of sports. We won a state championship my junior year. And for the most part, life was good, but I still had all those rules at home. My father was very controlling. And, all my buddies would go out, and I was never allowed to go. Just for the sake of the reason that he could say no, and there was nothing I could do about it. At least that's the way I felt. He never liked any of my friends. My half brother was kind of the golden child because it was his kid, and me and my sister, we're stepchildren, and I always felt like we were treated a little different. When I would go and visit my biological father, I understood it was the same thing. He had stepchildren as well because he got remarried. So when my sister and I would come to town, we got treated like royalty, and his stepkids got treated like crap. But anyway, graduated high school, went to college just south of Philadelphia, small school called Widener University. I thought I was a really good football player, and I ended up going to a Division III school to play football, and I never started the whole 4 years I was there. I was that classic story where you're a big fish in a small pond, and it changed quite.
What position did you play?
I was a running back.
Really?
Yeah, wouldn't know it as clumsy as I am, but yeah, I love to run the ball. But again, my career in college was basically spent on the scout team.
Yeah, and just so everybody knows, I hear dudes say this all the time. I play ball. This is totally unsobriety related. I played ball my whole life, and guys would go to like D3, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it was just D3." There's 10 gazillion guys that would kill to play D3. You have to be a good ball player to play whatever level of college. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, that's awesome, man. I didn't know that. I do want to race you when we leave here, though.
Oh, God, I can't wait.
I need to make sure it's
4 ACL surgeries coming. 2 for you, 2 for me.
Race on foot.
Knee replacement.
We got to save that for
driving.
the website.
We're driving.
Yeah. I think my truck's faster than yours. That old diesel you have.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
If we do race, I need to make sure that it's downhill with the wind at my back.
Well, I have to roll the windows down to get the wind going in mine. So, but anyway, sorry. Go ahead, bro.
No, that's totally fine. Or I can't remember where I was. Anyway, yeah, played college football. Got good grades, but graduation came and I didn't have a job. Couldn't find a job. I was lazy, I guess, and my stepfather took major exception to that. I was home after graduation for about 24 hours, and he got in my face and told me that I owed him a job. And
24 hours.
And I'm like, I think it's the first time I ever stood up to him, and I told him to fuck off, and I left. And I went to live with his brother, which didn't cause any problems at all, right? And there was a girl that I had met in college, and she was moving to San Diego, and I was in love with this girl, and I'm like, yeah, well, screw this shit, screw the East Coast, there's nothing going on for me here. I'm gonna go out there with her. So she had gone out first. And I worked in a fish market all summer, cutting fish and shucking clams and oysters and stuff like that. And saved up some money. I had my graduation money, totaled about $1,500. Had my Chevy Chevette packed down, and drove across country. And I get to San Diego. I'm figuring, this is going to be great. Her and me together, a new place. And about a month into it, she decides that she doesn't want to have anything to do with me anymore. And I'm thinking, man, you could have figured this shit out before I made that trip across the country. But being the prideful person that I was not going to tuck my tail between my legs and go back to New Jersey. I was determined to make it work. And man, I struggled in 1990. I struggled to find work out there too. Here I got this college education, and the only thing I could find was straight sales jobs, straight commission.
I remember that.
And I couldn't sell warm weather to an Eskimo. I hated making cold calls. I hated hearing no. And my people that were training me would tell me, it's just a numbers game. It's nothing personal, man. But anyways, I spent a ton of money to get my licenses, and I don't think I ever sold shit, to be honest with you. Just to pay the bills, I was trying to find just a dishwashing job in a restaurant, and I'd hear the same thing over and over again. No, you're overqualified. You can't work here. And started washing cars. I had met a guy who had a mobile auto detailing business, and just to pay the bills, I started helping him out. And he actually wanted to find a permanent location, which we did in Coronado, California. And he decided after doing that for a few months that he didn't like a location. He wanted to go back to mobile. And the owner of the gas station that we were renting from asked me to stay. And so I did. And, man, my mom was pissed when she found out I was washing cars for a living.
Sure.
I'd spent $50,000. We had spent $50,000 on a college education. And here I am washing cars. So that was a point of contention in my life. Anyways, alcohol always soothed. I found a group of people. We'd work hard all day. We'd go to the bar, drink. And then in the morning, wake up feeling like crap. Promise I'd never do that again. Go to work. And, life was great. I I golfed a lot out there, and the weather was amazing. You know, the average temperature in San Diego is 77 in the summertime and 67 in the winter. So that was my life. It was just, working and drinking and not doing much else. I discovered cocaine along the way, so that became part of my story. And I started drinking like quite a bit. And it took me quite a while to build up this business. And it took me about 3 months to run it into the ground. People would come to pick up their cars, and instead of finding a nice clean car, they'd find me passed out in the front seat.
Dude, I would get my car done there just for that. I mean, that's me though.
And mind you, Coronado's a small town. It's close to San Diego. It's
Navy Town.
Yeah, and so it didn't take long for word to get out that Craig was having issues. You probably don't want to take your car there. And,
That's a good one.
and I offered a pickup and delivery service too, so I was going to people's houses, getting the car.
God bless.
Come back with the wrong car.
Yeah, it turned into a shit show pretty quick.
That is pretty cool.
That is awesome.
Yeah, and it got to that point where I had to have the alcohol in my body. If not, I was sick. And like I don't know where I crossed that line. I was probably drunk when I crossed it, and it just compounded from there. And I did have a few friends that were worried about me, and they got a hold of my mother, who was living here with my little half brother, who was stationed here at Barksdale Air Force Base. And so they put me on a flight, shut down my shop, and I came here with a duffel bag with some clothes in it. And I don't remember the flight at all. I remember kind of coming to being in a place called Steps, downtown Shreveport.
Yeah.
And people were talking to me, and I wasn't sure if I was still in the United States. I didn't understand redneckese. And the guy that ran the place, Bill, and I can't remember his last name, but he was worried about me. He said I looked like shit. Well, I felt like shit. Steps was a non-medical detox. Mm-hmm. And so he told me, Craig, I've never had anybody die while I've been running this place, so I'm afraid you're going to be the first. So he called it. Yeah. And that's a vote of confidence.
That's hope.
Yeah. And so they sent me to LSU Medical Center. And the nurses there put me on a couple IVs. And, man, I felt like $1 million after that.
I'm sure you did.
And I was trying to con them into giving me some more of those IV bags. And that's the alcoholism right there. You know, if one or two makes me feel good, then shit, 10's got to be better.
Yep.
So I did the Steps thing for a week. Pines Treatment Center was open back then because I didn't have any insurance, and my mom couldn't afford to send me to Doctor's Hospital or anything like that. So went out to Pines Treatment Center for 30 days. When I first got there, I remember they handed me a few books on anger management, and that kind of pissed me off.
Yeah.
I'm like, you people don't know me. I don't have a problem with anger. I just drank too much, and I just need to hit that reset button. I need to put some time between me and that last drink. And my plan was all along was to appease my mother and head back to San Diego. And, of course, I'm here in Bossier City, Louisiana, 23 years later. So, obviously, that plan never came to fruition. I had been, but before all that, when I was still in San Diego, I had been engaged to get married. And, of course, that went by the wayside. And when I came here to get sober, I figured that part of my life was over with. But Joanne really cared about me, and she agreed to come here and visit me when I was, I don't know, about 6 months sober. I took her down to Natchitoches. She wanted to see where that movie was filmed, Steel Magnolia.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did a little tour on the river, and anyway, long story short, we got re-engaged, and I kind of made up my mind that I was afraid to go back to San Diego for my sobriety. You know, after Pines Treatment Center, my mom bought a house about 2 miles from the Koala Club, so I started going to meetings there. Never really latched on to any of the sponsor thing or they got these steps that you're supposed to do. I didn't think those were important.
I heard about those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to come to a place for an hour, sit down, and drink some free coffee. And anyways,
Well, it's actually good for that too.
It is good for that.
I mean, it does.
I enjoyed it, man. I love going.
Me
to
too.
I love going to meetings. You know, I would meet some people, but I wouldn't. You know, I didn't really jump all the way in. You know, I was still kind of putting my toes in the. Excuse me.
Oh, you're good.
In the shallow end, and Joanne and I.
What year was that?
2001.
Okay.
2001. So we got re-engaged, and she agreed to move here from this is a girl that was born in Santa Monica and then lived in San Diego. So she's been a Southern California girl her whole life. And so we got re-engaged. I went back to San Diego. We got married. Hence the story about my honeymoon was spent driving a U-Haul from San Diego to here. We stayed in Big Spring, Texas one night.
Yeah.
Got the presidential suite at the local Motel 6.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
that's a very nice room. I would have to say it's definitely cleaner than the other.
I can imagine.
And I kept calling it Big Springs, Texas, and some guy told me there's only one spring. Damn it, it's Big Spring, Texas. It's not plural. It's
Their claim
singular.
to fame, man.
I'm like, all right, man. Sorry about it. Yeah.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, that's just outside of Houston.
No, it's along I-20.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I might be wrong. Oh.
Kind of a higher elevation because we got married in April. So I remember it being real hot in Arizona, New Mexico, and when we stopped in Big Spring, it was cold outside. But anyway, I don't know what that's relevant to.
It's part of your story.
Anyway, she moved here. We ended up buying the house from my mother. Had that pool built that I was talking about. Joanne got pregnant, had Savannah, and all I was doing was just not partaking in the party favors. Like I said, a couple years in, I got 2 or 3 years sobriety, but I still haven't gotten a sponsor, and I still haven't worked the steps. And basically, the only part of my program was going to meetings. And my daughter was born. And my wife and my daughter kind of formed a bond, and I felt like I was left on the outside. You know, she didn't want me changing the diapers. She didn't want me doing this. Joanne's very hands-on. So being the good that I mentioned that I'm codependent as well. So I needed someone to take care of, and I found this girl. I wasn't really looking, but she was having problems with substance abuse. So I was like, I know. I'm going to show her what the sober life's all about. And she liked to smoke crack cocaine. So you can imagine what happened. Instead of me showing her how to live the sober life, she showed me how to smoke crack cocaine.
Yeah.
And that was 7 years after attending meetings at the Koala Club. So
Now, did you have a sponsor and all that, or
no,
Okay.
no. I wasn't. That fifth step really held me back. You know, I did the 4th step, and I would do my 5th step with a bum on a corner before I would do it with anybody that knew anything about me. And you know, that's that pride and that ego, and don't take myself so seriously.
yeah?
And I just like with a lot of things in my life, I just never followed through. And I treated AA that way, and I used to think AA was a punishment, that I was getting what I deserved for all the crap that I'd pulled up in my life, and never realizing it's one hell of a gift. So fast forward, I mean, I had 7 years sobriety, and I'm out running the streets. I blow through about $30,000 in 6 months, and God, I mean, things were awful. I mean, I would tell her I was going out to get a pack of cigarettes, and I'd come home 4 days later. So not only had I
I guess the old gallon of milk just don't work anymore.
couldn't find my brand of cigarettes.
I had to go to Big Spring and get it.
The presidential suite.
That's right.
So I was out running and gunning for about 6 months, and ended up in a hit and run accident. Had to go to jail for a couple weeks, and my mother put a coroner's warrant on me after I got out of jail. I went right back to doing what I was doing. My mother, she issued a coroner's warrant on me, which I didn't even know was a thing.
The old CEC.
And
I think that's what Jill does. She goes out picking up people on coroner's warrants.
well, I had come back home after being gone for a week, and I snuck in the house, and I was sleeping in my daughter's room, and apparently my wife had realized I was home, so she notified the authorities. And next thing I know, there's a cop tapping on my shoulder, telling me that I needed to come with him. And I'm like, am I under arrest? He's like, no. And I'm like, well, I'm not going anywhere with you. He's like, yes, you are. So they cuffed me and took me over to Brentwood and spent a few days there. Got back out and started doing the same thing over again. And yeah, it was really hard to stop that time.
And you think it was because of the what you were doing, or just the addiction in general?
I think it was just I just wanted to change the way I felt, Mike.
Yeah, I get it.
You know, I just and that had stopped working pretty in all relative terms. You know, that had stopped working pretty quickly. But I still kept thinking, man, this next time's going to be better. You know, this next time's going to put me right. You know, I always lived my life like I wanted to be someone else. I wanted to be somewhere else. I wanted to be with somebody else. Always wanting more, never satisfied with what I had. You know, the chip on the shoulder, pissed off at the world, and not realizing that my mother used to tell me that I had a little gray cloud following me. And I'm the one that made that little gray cloud, you know. Every time things started going good, I'd sabotage the shit out of that. For whatever reason, I don't know. Maybe I was addicted to the chaos. So went to a second treatment center, which was on Jordan Street and Line Avenue. Motor City Hotel was connected to this treatment center, and you could walk down the hallway and buy drugs if you wanted to.
That's lovely.
Yeah. And my mother, you know, she almost went into hock putting me through that place, and came back out, went back to the Koala Club, maybe stayed for a cup of coffee. And I was like, screw this shit. And I was right back out there again. But I'd kind of learned maybe to temper it a little bit. And so for the last 12 years, you know, I was living with my wife, my daughter. I had a tree service, and I was still sneaking the drugs. I was still sneaking the booze. I discovered pills at that time too, so I was hitting the trifecta, you know. And finally, just 12 years of that's juggling a lot of balls, and trying to keep them all in the air is very difficult. And shortly, April 29th, April 30th, I was on one of my tree jobs, and we had finished early. It was a Friday, and I wanted to squeeze one more job in. So I gave the guys, I got paid cash, $1,200. And I sent the guys to the next job, and I couldn't get the pills that I wanted that day. And but I knew where the dope man lived. So on the way to that second job, I stopped by the dope man's house and got some stuff, and man, I was gone. I was in one of my workers' cars, didn't pay them, spent every dime of that $1,200, and finally, when I was out of money, I went back home. Hi.
Me again.
Here's that milk. It's not good anymore.
Finally found it.
Here I am.
Hello.
And I thought Joanne was just gonna rant and rave and call me a piece of shit, and I would have deserved all that. And she looked at me, and it was like 2:00 in the morning. We're out in the driveway, and she's like, "So what do you want to do?" And I said, "I think I need to go back to treatment." And she's like, "That's probably a good idea." And but of course, you know, I don't have insurance at the time, and she's like, "I tell you what." She's like, "Why don't you spend a week at home trying and clean yourself out, and we'll go from there." Let me tell you something. That 3 or 4 days that I was at the house was awful. I mean, I don't think I've ever felt that bad in my life. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I was miserable. My workers came to the house and they brought me a 6-pack of beer. And I'm like, nah, dude, you don't they're all Hondurans and they don't understand this. Or the guy didn't understand this process. I don't mean to lump all Hondurans into one social group, but they just wanted to make me feel better and come back to work. And I'm like, you guys don't understand. I mean, I'm done. You know, I'm done with tree work. You know, I need to work on myself here. And anyways, Joanne took me to LSU, and I was hoping they would give me some medicine to make me feel better. And they kept checking my heart, like there was something wrong with my heart. And I'm like, well, there's nothing wrong. Well, your wife told me that there was a problem with your heart. And so I looked at her. She's like, well, that's the only thing I could think of to get you in here. And I kept telling them, no, you know, I'm an addict. And anyways, they didn't do anything for me. They kept me overnight and discharged me the next day. But a girl had come along signing people up for insurance. And so I got on Medicaid. And I went home, called Brentwood, and they said, come on whenever you're ready. So it took me about a day to actually pull the trigger, and went to Brentwood, spent 7 days there, and then went to Uprising. And I was in Uprising, and I'm thinking to myself, man, I started trying to get sober when I was 33, and I'm in Uprising, and I'm 55 years old. And I'm thinking to myself, how in the fuck did I get back here again? After all this time, you know, I'm still doing the same old. And this feeling came over me, maybe a moment of clarity. Oh, God bless you. Well, it wasn't really a burning bush or anything like that, but it was like, you don't have to do this anymore. And right then I decided that I was gonna be a yes man. Whatever they asked me to do at Uprising, whatever they told me to do, I was gonna do it. And I was gonna do it in spades. So whether it was yoga or working out or group or whatever it was, I was going to do it. I was going to be there on time. I was going to participate, and you know, I did. And you know, when you're in treatment, when you first get there, you hate being there, and then you kind of get used to it. And then when your discharge date starts to approach, you're like, man, I really don't want to leave.
Can I stay an extra week?
I was exactly the same
I did
way.
the same thing too.
I didn't want to stay extra week, but I didn't want to leave.
Yeah, it's like, because I know me, and you know, everything, you know, you start feeling good. You know, your system's cleaned out. Your head's clear, and you get to know people there. And it for me, it's almost like being back in college. You know, in a dormitory setting.
Start to laugh again.
Yeah, you know, and I was afraid. I was afraid that, you know, because that's where the rubber meets the road. When you walk out those doors, you know, what are you going to do? So I got involved in their IOP program, and you know, I went home. I'd lost a bunch of weight too, because the food really was shit out there, and maybe the medication that I was on too. But I'd lost my appetite. Anyways, discharged, involved in the IOP, which was 3 nights a week, 3 hours a night. And they would come with a big old van to the house and pick me up and take me there and bring me back. But I lived pretty far away from Uprising. So for a 6 to 9, I think, what was the session, they'd pick me up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And some nights I wouldn't get back till 10. But it was good. It was taking up a bunch of my time. I didn't have a vehicle when I was home, so I started walking to the Rise and Shine meeting. And like I said, it's 2.1 miles from my house to the Koala Club. And that was my deal.
2.1 mile one way?
One way.
I
Yeah.
didn't realize it was that far. Okay.
Oh, yeah, it is.
I believe you.
every step.
Yeah, I guess I never walked it either.
In June and July, I'd show up to the Koala Club dripping sweat, you know, and people would kind of sit away from me. No, it wasn't that bad. But the funny part about that is, from smoking, I'm a heavy smoker. You know, the blood flow to my legs isn't quite what it used to be. So when you walk, when you're doing any kind of exercises, my leg starts to go numb, and I do have to walk uphill on an overpass that goes over 220.
Yeah, right there.
And so by the time I got to the top of that hill or to the top of the road there, I would have to stop and take a break. And apparently this happened to me twice. People would drive by and see me standing there, and I guess they thought I was contemplating jumping off the overpass on the 220. So 2 separate times I had I got pulled over by the police walking to the Koala Club for fear that I was trying to commit suicide.
If I had to walk that in July, I would have been pondering it as I went across that bridge. I'm just saying. That's me, though.
But I kind of explained my situation to both police officers, and they kind of laughed about it. And like I said, this is 2 separate instances, and they both offered me a ride to the Koala Club. What was surprising was they didn't know where the Koala Club was. I'm like, you just passed it on your way here. It's right next to Johnny Gray Jones. They're like, where's Johnny Gray Jones? I'm like,
Oh,
wow.
no way.
Yeah, the one was like, where's that?
Are they
I'm like, you must be new.
right in like 20 or something?
They were very gracious. You know, they took me, and when Miss Dana was outside one time, as I get out of the back of the cop car, she's like, Craig, what did you do now? So anyways, this time around, I did, like I said, I carried my attitude over from Uprising into AA, and I got a sponsor. I started working the steps. And, you know, it is amazing. Once I stopped trying to change the program to fit me and decided to really work on myself to fit the program. I mean, I'm the type of guy, I didn't understand when they told me that the drugs and alcohol were just but a symptom of my disease. I didn't get that. I didn't know what they were talking about. That the problem therein resides in me.
Yeah, I think that confuses a lot of people because everyone seems to think that the substance is the problem.
Right?
Well, logically, it is. Just saying, you know.
Yeah. I had no clue it went any further than just stopping.
Yeah, I figured, you know.
Like, I'm cured.
And part of my history told me that if I just stopped doing what I was doing, my life would get better by default. And like those 7 years that I talk about, it was really just dry time. Mm-hmm. I didn't understand the spiritual angle. And things I don't understand or don't comprehend, I tend to ignore because I start getting frustrated and pissed and lash out. And, you know, a lot of my problems during my whole life, if I ignore them, they will go away.
Well, that's, you know, anything you ignore long enough goes away.
Yeah.
Well, a dentist will tell you that about your teeth. If you ignore your teeth, they will go
I have a
away.
hard time ignoring
Your family, all those people gone.
Mate,
So,
I have a hard
Kids,
time.
whatever, you know.
and I had read the big book before. I mean, not not in order. Not, you know, like I would read maybe the first chapter or the doctor's opinion and then jump to a story in the back. But I'd never really read the first 164 pages. And, you know, I did that this time. And I got a 12 and 12. And I read that all the way through. And I'd go back and read the big book. And I would see stuff that I didn't see before. And I'd be like, man, you know, that's just like me. Now, how a book that was written in 1939 or
Yeah, between 35 and 39, if you want to look at it collectively. It was written in 37.
we're 8 decades ago, 9 decades ago.
We actually, AA just turned 89 on
89.
September 10th, so 8.9 decades ago.
June the 10th,
Yes, what I meant, June 10th. Dr. Bob's sobriety date.
which was my release date from.
Yourself from the bondage of self.
from Uprising. I got out on June 10th, and I remember that day because 5:30 I was at the 5:30. I'd gotten out at 1 o'clock, and my wife dropped me off at a meeting, and Coleman was chairing the meeting, and he called on me. You in the red shirt. I'm like, okay. But I didn't share that day. I told everybody that I just gotten out of treatment. They just had released me back into the wild, and
And you're just here to listen.
I'm just here to listen.
I say, hey, I'm with you there, buddy.
So, but yeah, I did my 90 meetings, and I did everything that they asked of me or suggested of me. And screw that, it's not suggestions. I mean, for me, they're mandates. You can tell yourself whatever you want, whatever makes yourself feel better at night. But for me, there's certain things I must do in order to stay sober. I can't cut those corners. You know, I got to measure twice, cut once. I mean, it's just, it's. I heard Mike say one time that, you know, AA is what you do now. And, you know, I kind of wanted to be like that. You know, I started going back out to Uprise and taking an AA meeting out there on Friday nights. I did the same thing at Brentwood on Wednesday nights. I spoke at CADA. When we would host the intergroup, I got involved with that. And that's stuff that I had never done before. I don't even think I had been to an intergroup in those first 7 years, you know. I just, I was like a wall, what do you call it when you go to a dance?
Wallflower.
Wallflower, yeah. Just, you know, standing on the sidelines, watching everyone else. The whole higher power thing, you know, I grew up Lutheran, which is like Catholic light.
Catholic line. Yeah, I like that.
You know, I heard about this dude named Jesus, and apparently he did some miracles, and that's about as far, you know, as far as I got.
He
you know,
did some pretty good stuff.
Yeah, you know, God and the Holy Spirit, and
Well, there's also a book on that, Craig.
yeah.
I think Matt has a signed copy at the house.
Yes.
He was at the book signing.
So I believed in God, and I think it describes this in the agnostic chapter about you know, I believed in God. I just didn't believe He could do anything for me. I didn't understand. I didn't comprehend. You know, there was, I mean, how many billions of people are in the world? And He created the whole universe and all this other stuff. How could He possibly do anything for me? You know, this dude is, you know, he's pretty busy. You know, I figured. And sometimes in the morning, my prayers start out like that. Hey, do you really want to listen to this shit today? And he usually tells me yes. It's amazing though how God's voice sounds an awful lot like mine. But you know, I've learned to pray. I used to be so worried about, you know, feeling foolish or looking stupid, you know, kneeling down, and man, I don't have those problems anymore. You know, and I guess what amazes me is that I stopped praying for myself. You know, I stopped asking for things for myself, and I have no idea what God's will is for me, but you know, and I hear people say this all the time. I sure as hell know what it's not. You know, He doesn't want me out there drinking and drugging and sucking the life out of everybody that I come in contact to. You know, I want to try and make people's, and I don't know if I have the power to do this, and then this is not boasting, but you know, I don't want to take anything away anymore. I want to try and maybe leave it neutral or add something. So you know, just about every time I've been asked to do something in it's been a little more than 2 years this time around. You know, I've said yes. You know, I realize that I'm responsible for my own recovery, and in order for me to fulfill my primary purpose, you know, there's certain things that I need to do, and you guys breaking it down to a 24-hour period, which I used to think was stupid as hell. You know, it makes sense. I just got to worry about today. I've learned to call myself on my own bullshit, which I don't think I had the ability to do that before. And I guess I was, you know, thinking something. I'm like, yeah, let's go with that. You know, well, let's see how this works out. Hold my beer.
Isn't that crazy to look back and realize, like, I had zero insight? Like, how is that possible?
No, yeah, absolutely nothing. I mean, I would complain that, you know, I didn't have any direction in life, or other people would complain about me not having, you know, any kind of direction. And you walk into AA and it gives you 12 things to do, you know.
Oh, it's right there, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in an AA room crying and going, I don't know how to get sober. It's kind of an oxymoron because it's written on all
Big
four
ass
walls.
poster on the
All
wall.
four.
But you know, that isn't going to work
And they're in
for
order
me.
and everything, dude. Like, you don't
So
even have to. Yeah.
See, that's why I love being around you people, because you know exactly how I have felt.
Well, it doesn't make any. And then there's step 9. You know, I'm going. You know, they keep saying 12, but there's 11 when I look at it. I'm not doing that 9 thing.
Yeah. or that what is it? What do they call them? Two-steppers. You know, you do step one, and then all of a sudden you're trying to help everybody. I felt that way in treatment. Once I felt like I really understood stuff, man, I'm on the phone with my wife trying to tell her, and she's like, "Easy, Maverick, slow down." You know, this is not my first rodeo. She was telling me, but it was funny with today I tried to set a good example, I guess, and we had gotten a tax bill from the IRS.
Oh, I've gotten a few of those.
And
Same.
It was quite a bit.
Yeah, I've gotten a few of those too.
And she didn't. I don't know. My wife's a worrier, so she decided she would when she goes to take care of her mother every evening, kind of up this way in Autumn Creek, but she decided she was going to start praying about the situation. So she'd go up to the lake, Black Bayou, where the parking lot is, there behind the 911 building, and she told me what she was doing. I'm like, honey, don't go up there and pray for money. You know, I said, just pray for strength. And I said, and turn it over. And she's like, what do you mean? I said, turn your problems over to God. And okay. So she started doing that, and then I guess she was going to work and complaining about her situation to her coworkers. And one of her coworkers said, girl, you got to turn that shit over. And she told me about that. She's like, honey, how do you do that? She goes, how do you just turn it over? I said, well, I turn it over and take it back all the time. You know, I said, it just like anything else, it takes practice. And there's one thing in the big book, you know, where it tells me that either God is everything or he's not. And I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah, no, that actually pretty much on the money. We talked about that in the last episode.
And you know, if I'm gonna feel that way, then I got to show that I feel that way. And that old adage comes, you know, if you're gonna pray, why worry? And if you're gonna worry, why pray? So I got to, you know, if I'm gonna turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understand Him, you know, not only do I got to talk that talk, but I got to walk that walk. And I told her, I said, you know, try it again and try it again. And things have tempered down. You know, I didn't realize that now I've gotten tax bills before from the IRS when I was washing cars in San Diego. Fuck that. You know, I'm small potatoes. They'll never come after me. They got bigger.
They'd have to figure out which car you were in, you know, to come get you.
But I didn't realize there was a payment plan. So
Yeah, there's.
Oh yeah.
When you're in my situation, you have to hire a lawyer on a payment plan to get you a payment plan with the IRS. But yeah, there's still.
So
The only way to beat the IRS is to not to pass away.
Yeah, but it gets passed on to somebody
No,
else.
there's nobody else, and they ain't gonna go. If you're married, it will.
Don't you have like a death tax now? And
Well, I mean, they're not gonna wake you up to get it.
Funny how everyone has payment plans to lawyers, IRS.
yeah, that was an eye opener. So we paid our state obligation, and yeah, we're on a payment plan.
Dude, high five. Me too.
So thank you.
And my payment plan, I think, is paid off in 2071.
God, I mean, how
Well, I turned 100 in 2073, so you know,
2071, huh?
something like that. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Do they ever sit down and do the math on that and go, we're probably not going to get all our money from him?
They
he's
probably
gonna
will
pass.
after they hear this podcast. Like, Mr. Austin, we need to update your file.
Yeah. We were listening to his Sunday podcast.
Which by the way, I write off on my taxes. We could do a whole episode of the IRS, man.
Let's not, please.
Oh, I asked my wife to ask the accountant if we could use AA as, you know, like I give $1.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, if you go to 3 meetings a day and give $1 a meeting, you know, that's $1,000 in a year. Can you use that as a write-off? And her accountant said no. It's got to be like
I use it.
because he had been very. I don't want to get him in trouble, but he had been very creative to get us to where we were, and he said if it's less than $17,000,
Well, okay. Well, no, that's a whole nother show. But the reason is because of your standard deduction is still greater than that itemized deduction. So, absolutely, that makes sense. But you can write that off if you're itemizing and your especially me. I'm single, so my standard deduction is not quite as high. Not that we go to AA as a tax write-off. That's not,
shit.
But here, let me tell you, this is where this comes in.
Doing this wrong the whole time.
This is where this all has to do with it. You can find somebody in AA for everything. Mm-hmm. I mean, what does Nelson say? If you want somebody to spank you, they're in AA.
Oh my God.
If you want somebody to tickle you with a feather, they're in AA. If you got accountant, doctor, lawyer. There's somebody in AA. I mean, I sat down next to a guy down in the Mandeville area one day, and I showed up at the club, and I think it was one of those times where we were going to shut down, and this was in shutdown mode because of a hurricane, so we didn't have electricity, and so some people just showed up there, and we just sat outside and talk, and this guy actually was a television repairman. It's almost like a shoe cobbler. It just doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
But he was a television repairman.
That's so true because TVs now are like lighters.
Yeah, they're not Zenith consoles anymore.
I mean, our TV was it was a piece. It was a piece of furniture.
Yeah.
I mean, you had to have multiple people to move that thing.
4 big ass men to move those.
Man, 2 huge speakers on one side. The screen was only about that big. The wooden box, and then there was a turntable on the other side. I mean, turntable.
And you were the remote control?
Oh, yeah, Craig. Well, thank God there were only about 6 channels back then.
Right?
But yeah, no, I was a dishwasher. The original dishwasher. I was the original TV remote. Gutter clean. I mean, whatever it was that they needed done, I
was talking to my mother earlier this week about something. And she was talking about us growing up, me and my brothers as kids versus how my kids grow up with phones and laptops and Xboxes and all this stuff. And she's like, I know y'all probably did some things that I don't even know about. And I'm 45. And I said, yeah, I used to shoot at them with a BB gun on the railroad tracks. That's what we did. No phones anywhere, and
We used 22s.
ooh.
No.
That was
Oh, I was like, oh my God.
evidently your friends were bad aims because you're still with us.
Yeah.
So,
Were my friends.
but I mean,
They went on to be stormtroopers.
It's some of that stuff, man. It's just crazy, and you look back on it and you're like, how did we're just out there blasting each other.
How did
with
we
pellet
make it
guns all
past
day.
15?
Yeah, and our parents never knew. Like I would be horrified if my kid shot somebody with a pellet gun, but back then they're like, yeah, you'll be all right. So.
I remember those summer days, where you just had to show up for lunch maybe and then be back home by dinner time. And I always had the rule too where I had to be in by the time the street lights were on. So when I moved to Iceland, funny story, in the summertime there, the sun doesn't set till about midnight.
Yeah.
And I was 7, I guess. And I'm like, well, I don't have to be in until the street lights come on. Mm-hmm. So I come waltzing in the house about 11:30. Yeah, that worked one time.
Well, how is it today going forward? I mean, how are things as far as life? We know you from our home group and our club that we go to, and you have, man, like you talking about being a yes man. You're the same way there as you were talking about at treatment. You're always involved. You're always doing things. So how is it with you today? I mean, how are you? What's the biggest thing you've noticed that you've gained out of the program in this 2 years?
Peace of mind. I don't. Like I said, I always wanted to be with somebody else or some other place, and I'm okay with where I'm at now. I'm working. And after I got sober, I was out of work for about 4 months. And full disclosure, my parents I didn't know this until afterwards, but my dad was sending my wife a check to help pay for the mortgage and stuff like that. So we were taken care of. And I just thought it was money that we were supposed to go to Pensacola Beach, and we usually try and save up money for that. So I thought she was just dipping into that fund. I had no idea that my parents were doing that. And I really thought that I was going to get written off after this last time because I've lied and manipulated so much and just have basically screwed everybody that I've known, whether it be financially or emotionally. I've really raked those people over the coals, and I've had a lot of people in my corner over the years, and I've been afforded every opportunity to take a hold of this, and I've just rejected it. Today, I don't feel that way. Like I told you before, I don't. Yeah, I'm grateful for whoever built that damn building back in the '80s. Whoever had that forethought to go ahead and do something like that. A place for me to go. And I know they tell people to go to different meetings and branch out, but shit, man, I live 2 miles away. I'm going to the Koala Club. It's hard for me to pass the Koala Club to go to the Highland. Just to go to the Highland Club, unless there's something going on over there. But it just it's all set up for me right now, and I just like I said before, I've never followed through. I mean, I need to follow through this time. I need to treat this like my life depends upon it, because it does. Mm-hmm. We all talk about, I know I got another drunk in me, but I don't know if I have another sobering up, and it's so true. With what's out there today, just anything could, if I get behind the wheel and kill a family of 10 or 5 or whatever, and those things could have happened to me multiple times. I mean, I did manage over my drinking career to get 1 DUI, and that was 4 months after I turned 21. And my parents had chalked it up to, well, he just started drinking. He doesn't know. Little did they, from when I started drinking at 13, that it's not like I quit until I was 21. Growing up, we wouldn't do my best friend and I. We wouldn't do anything if there wasn't alcohol involved. He just texted me this morning, wanting to know. We went to a concert back in the '80s. He wanted to know what 2 girls we went with. I'm like, dude, I can't remember what I had for breakfast. I don't remember. The Hooters. You guys ever hear of the Hooters?
Yeah.
Yes. I like the Hooters. I have some of their music.
The Hooters, man, I forgot. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we went to in Wildwood, New Jersey. We went to a concert. I was on the boardwalk and like a theater. It wasn't like a huge stadium or anything like that, but it was one of the best concerts we ever gone to.
Really? Cool.
Yeah. And there was booze involved.
Yeah.
Steaks on the grill. It was an awesome time. But he wanted to know what 2 girls we went with, and I'm throwing names out there, and I'm like, dude, I said honestly, I can't remember. That was 40 years ago. So.
Last concert drinking I went to was Jamie Johnson and Merle Haggard on the steps of the Superdome in Champion Square out there. And I remember going to the Quarter and riding in a rickshaw, like those pull behind carts. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Rode. Yeah.
Like in the Philippines?
Yes.
Or
yeah. Or like on
Thailand?
Seinfeld. Yeah, where they had the rickshaw business. Yes.
What are those things called?
Rickshaw. You just sit in it. It's a little cart and a human pulls it.
Who thought of that?
I don't know. I thought of it that night as I staggered down the street. I went, that looks like a great idea. Yeah.
And you'd asked what's different today, I guess. It also tells me in the big book that, about the guy who clamors about the fact that he needs his material needs met before he can get sober, and the fact that you'll continue to drink if you keep relying on people rather than God. And nobody made me get drunk and stupid, and nobody made me get sober. I'm developing this relationship, which really didn't even know was a thing before, and I think that's one of the biggest differences this time around. I tell people that I'm working on being grateful for being sober, and the reason why I say working and not that I am grateful, man, I can slip back into old behavior and bad habits real quick. When I take those reins back and start demanding imposing my will upon other people, shit goes sideways quickly. But like I said, I can call myself on my own bullshit today. Kind of step back and look at the situation. So, but man, it's not I didn't have a real tragic story. I didn't go off to war and see horrendous things. And see, that's why I always fought about that thought about being an alcoholic. Is nothing really bad ever happened to me my whole entire life. Yeah, I had a shitty stepfather, but big deal. He still fed me and put a roof over my head. He's busy flying $1 million jets around the country. I wanted to be like him, but I didn't want to be like him. When I swore growing up that I would never treat my kids the way we were treated. And again, it wasn't like it was the most awful situation, that we weren't locked in closets and shit like that. But mentally he could be pretty abusive. And Savannah, she's never had a curfew. She's never had really any kind of rules. When she was old enough to understand, I told her that she's starting off with it. Said, you're starting off with an A+. And I said, it's up to you to keep that A+. Don't ever give me a reason not to trust you. And she never has. Straight A student, cheerleader, dating a football player. She goes to Tech here in a few weeks or a month or so.
Yeah, so does my nephew. He's taking off for Tech.
And I'm very excited about that, because when she first started talking about colleges, she's talking about the University of Arkansas. I'm like, shit, that's 6 hours away. And then LSU, I'm like, well, that's 6 hours away the other way. And I'm like, why don't you try Bipsy? That's right around the corner.
Actually, LSU's on 3 hours.
Diesel Driving Academy. That's one I looked at.
Ruined my story, Mike.
Well, I'm sorry. I just, I guess when you're in Dallas, it's 6 hours away. You know what I mean?
Okay. Well, I didn't start my reference point. So it's Tech's 50 minutes? Especially for me, I'm on the east side of Bossier
Yeah, 50
anyway.
minutes. 50 minutes. Hour. Traffic's bad, but yeah.
Which is, I grew up on the Jersey Shore, went to school in Philly, and it was about 55 minutes. So you're far enough away to be away, but close enough to be, if you want to pop home, you can go.
Case of emergency, boom, right there. Yeah.
So, and I think she wants to go into the dental field. And, which is, when I went to college, it was, what fraternity am I going to rush? I'm playing football, and there's classes to go to too. Okay. Okay.
Craig's walking around. Did y'all know there's a school here? There's people reading books and stuff.
I got good grades though, but that was more of a pride thing than anything else, and fear of the repercussions of what would happen at home if I didn't. But I got a degree in business. What is that? It's not specialized. It just shows that I can go to school for 4 years basically and pass. She's blessed. Like I said, with all the shit that I've pulled in my life, we had one child, and we stopped there. She came out so perfect, I was afraid the next one would come out with horns and a tail. So, she's a good kid. But man, Mike, that's about it, brother.
Okay.
Craig, man, thank you for coming on, brother.
Absolutely.
You always, you just said, you always do what your people ask you to do, and I ask you, and you did it. So
that's not me. That's God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. So
Absolutely.
I used to be terrified of people and situations, and would have never done anything like this. In fact, when you guys invited me up here before, I was doing a little research before I come. I was talking to Lisa. I'm like, what do I got to do? She's like, relax. It's 4 of you sitting around a table. Bullshit.
That is it.
Bullshit.
Yeah,
I'm like,
basically.
oh, okay.
Some people just really get nervous when they think about this.
I know.
And
That's
this is-
like we just sit around and
man, it ain't
Yeah.
no different than sitting around in the front room at a club, man. So
I made such a good impression that Matt didn't even remember I was here like 2 months ago.
you were talking about, you know what I was thinking? You were talking about the concert where y'all drank, and he's like, what, 2 girls? I can't even remember in sobriety that you were on here before. So that's how I'm
wasn't
living
that
today.
long ago.
Yeah, it was like, yeah, bro.
You literally, and I hate the word literally, but you literally met me at the Koala Club.
and yeah,
And
I'm sorry,
I
Craig.
was cleaning up around my tree.
Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah. We have a tree at the Koala Club. That's a side story we'll get into another day. It's the Craig Memorial Parking Spot tree.
I cannot. I'm glad that I somebody's been taking care of that because that was
I'm gonna start pruning it this year.
that would bother me every time I pull. Mikey, you had asked me to take a fridge to Nelson's.
Yeah.
Well, I had a bunch of brush in the back of my truck. So you know where the little storage building is at the Koala Club
Yeah.
on the east side parking lot? Well, I dragged all that brush out of the back of my truck and just threw it on the grass there, thinking, oh, I'll come back and clean that up. And I never did. And a freaking tree from that brush, there must have been a seed that germinated. The little tree is now growing up out of that all that crap.
Nice.
So we leave it.
Matt does the lawn.
I know, that's
Yeah.
why I keep joking with him. I'm like, I mowed around your tree today. I always text him.
I had to tell him one day, I'm like, dude, I got something to tell you. I said, come here. And he's looking at me.
It scared the shit out of me.
I said, man, this has really been bothering me. I got to tell somebody. So I drag him out into the parking lot. And I said, you see that mess right there? I'm culpable. I did that. He's like, is that it? I'm like,
Like, what the fuck, man? I thought you. Craig's like, I need to talk bad, like a head hanging down. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, I laid those sticks over there. I'm like, what the fuck? Okay. I'll run them over with a mower next time I'm here. It's fine.
oh, God.
Well, Craig, we appreciate you coming by, man.
Thank you.
That has been,
Thanks for having me.
this has been a
Yes,
really
sir.
cool time.
Larry and Judy, thank you for the cool
Coins.
chips.
Yes.
We'll make
these
sure
are awesome. Craig
all of
had
our
one.
guests get one, and we'll let you know when we're out, and you can get us another one.
Is Larry and Judy, are they local?
They're local,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. They're Shreveport. Larry is actually the one that's like us. Judy is just his wife. Well, not just his wife, but she's his wife, and actually one of my old acquaintances I've known for many years, since before I got sober.
Really?
Yep. So it just happened that I've known her for 20 years, and I've known him for the past 12.
Okay.
Yeah, he has a little over 12.
Great people, man. Very funny.
I know two Larrys in the program, and I'm assuming that
Neither one.
he's neither one.
He's actually more Highland Club than anything. Yeah, I think maybe South Shreveport Group. One of his first sponsors that I know of was from the South Shreveport Group. But anyway, we have run out of time. We've covered just about everything we're gonna cover. So guys, next episode, straight out of rehab.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, looking forward to that one. So hopefully by the time it airs, our website will be up. But anyway, thanks again. We have been here at Rule 62 Studios here in Bossier City, Louisiana, and this has been The Grouch and the Brainstorm.